In all sports, there's always more hardship and difficulty than what meets the eye. The athletes must present the skills and capabilities of their minds and body, be it in the process of selection or performance. We often discuss which is the most physically demanding sport, and different people consider several criteria and characteristics in the argument. Though some of the sports depend heavily on endurance and strength, others rely on speed, flexibility, while some require more muscular strength and power. So today, we take a look at some of the toughest sports in the world. Before we go any further, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel Sports Stars and click the bell to watch our newest videos. Number 10. Freestyle Wrestling. When you think about wrestling, what comes to mind? The legendary Hulk Hogan and his team of WWE, or the Olympic wrestling we see on TV with tight overalls? Freestyle wrestling is a form of amateur wrestling that is practiced by many wrestling fanatics all over the world. It's one of the two styles of wrestling besides the Greco-Roman wrestling that is contested in the Olympic Games. The main goal is to pin down the opponent to the mat to win. Freestyle wrestling is one of the four main styles of global wrestling, according to the international governing body of the sport, United World Wrestling. The modern variant of freestyle originated as the catch-ass, catch-can wrestling in the US and Great Britain. By the way, did you know that there were several US presidents such as Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and Theodore Roosevelt who actively participated in the catch-ass, catch-can? Number 9. Soccer. At the ninth spot on the list of the most difficult sports to play will surely be soccer. Playing soccer takes more than just kicking a ball or scoring a goal. There's a lot of skills that must develop from one person or a team. These skills would include being able to pass a light-weighted and heavy-weighted ball by command in a rush without creating opportunity or an open path for opposing players to grab a hold of it. Because once you let the ball slip off your feet onto the team, the chase begins again. Let's go back to history for a bit. Soccer began in the mid-19th century and was developed in England. However, the origin of soccer goes as far back as 2500 BC. It is believed that soccer is derived from a combination of ancient games. The Chinese are credited for the earliest form of soccer, commonly recognized as approximately 2500 BC. Playing soccer is a team sport. A clear communication beforehand with your team is essential to ensure that the ball will not go to the opposing team. Keeping an eye on the ball and dribbling that ball while running across an enormous field with the world watching you is something that not anybody can do. Number 8. Baseball. Baseball is the only sport in which the team that is winning must continue to play the game. Baseball forces the winning team to continue to pitch and play defense, which means no game is over until the final out is declared. Which brings me to my next point. Everybody knows how hard it is to play the game of baseball. The great Boston Red Sox outfielder Ted Williams once said, "Baseball is the only field of endeavor where a man can succeed 3 times out of 10 and be considered a good performer." Number 7. Water polo. Water polo is a team water sport consisting of 4 periods where 2 teams attempt to score goals by throwing the balls into the opponent's net. Each team consists of 6 players and 1 goalkeeper in the water. Water polo is played in at least 1.8 meters deep pools with a water polo ball that floats. The same comprises swimming, catching, and shooting the ball using a single hand. Did you know that the game originated as a sort of water rugby in the last 19th century in Scotland? William Wilson first organized a set of rules for a team water ball game called aquatic football in 1977. This sport is very similar to handball and it is played in the water. So, what is a handball? A handball is a team sport in which 2 teams of 7 players each pass a ball using their hands to throw it into the goal of the other team. A standard match consisting of 2 periods of 30 minutes, and the team that scores more goals wins. The viscosity of the water restrains the player's mobility. Also, the technical rules of the game are pretty difficult to follow on and play by. This is one of the most difficult games because most people can't stay in the water for too long. This game and its practice are one of the hardest things to do during winter. Unlike football, water polo practices can only be done for hours. That is why it has stapled itself as the 7th most difficult sport. Number 6. Rowing. Rowing requires control, technique, and most importantly, raw power generated through constant leg drive to upper body and back strength for lengthy periods. When it comes to muscular strength and power, it is one of the most demanding sports. So you may have to think twice about singing the children's rhyme, Row Your Boat. It looks like this sport can't be done gently down the stream. Did you know that the modern rowing can be traced to the early 17th century when races or regattas were held between professional watermen on the River Thames in London, United Kingdom? If you heard it just now, then now you know. Amateur competition began towards the end of the 18th century with the coming of both clubs at the British public schools of Eton College, Shrewsbury School, Durham School, and Westminster School. The same clubs were formed at the University of Oxford with a race held between Brasenose College and Jesus College in 1815. Number 5. Triathlon. Triathlon usually consists of 3 sports played back-to-back: cycling, swimming, and running. These are 3 tasks that the contestants are needed to complete before a certain time. Triathlon itself is a tough sport as it tests all abilities of the athlete. It measures your abilities with mechanical sports by cycling, underwater through swimming, and then stamina to finish a race by running. So if you're thinking about braving your way to this sport, think twice. Triathlon requires weeks or even years of training to be in shape. You don't want to wake up in an ambulance just because you passed out in the middle of running your way to the finish line. Did you know that triathlon is also an essential training for survival? As difficult as it sounds, you may want to consider this sport. Number 4. Bull riding. Bull riding is a rodeo sport in which the rider is getting on a large bull and tries to stay atop while the bull attempts to buck off the rider. This sport is considered a great favorite with men who like to test their pain tolerance, if you know what I mean. While the fall can cause severe injuries and concussions, the bull, which can weigh up to 1,800 pounds, may trample the fallen rider. But for some, beyond the pain and fear lies an art. American bull riding has been called the most dangerous 8 seconds in sports. That is why bull riding takes the 4th spot for the most difficult and dangerous sport. To score, the rider must stay on top of the bull for 8 seconds with the use of one hand gripped on the bull rope tied behind the bull's forelegs. Touching the bull or themselves with the free hand or failing to reach the 8-second mark results in a no-score ride. It still depends on the bull riding organization and the mechanics of the competition though. During an interview, a medical expert had once said that while bull riding is billed as the most dangerous event because injuries typically are more serious, bareback riding is the hardest on a rider's body during the 8-second ride. Number 3. Football. Known as American football or gridiron. This is a sport played by 2 teams of 11 players on a rectangular field 120 yards long and 53.3 yards wide with goalposts at each end. As the name implies, it is an American game of football. It is different from the popular world sport commonly known as football or soccer. This evolved from the rugby football. This was first played on November 6, 1869 between Princeton and Rutgers. This is a full contact sport and is about running, with either team holding or passing the ball and trying to reach into the opponent's goal area to score points. So get your cardio pump up to a higher level if you're thinking about this sport. For safety, the minimum requirement is to wear a helmet and shoulder pads. The offense attempts to advance an oval ball or the football down the field by running or passing it. This is played over 60 minutes, which further divided into 2 halves of 30 minutes in professional games. Number 2. Skiing. Before it became a sport, skiing is a means of transport using skis to glide on snow. The word ski is originated from skid, an Old Norse word that means split piece of wood or firewood. Since then, it has evolved into one of the most difficult sports and may in fact a bit risky one at that. Variations of purpose include basic transport, a recreational activity, or a competitive winter sport. During the 18th century, Norway started to host military ski races. This is an ice sport with two main genres of this sport: the alpine and the Nordic skiing, which were developed in the 1930s. Many types of competitive skiing events are organized by the International Olympic Committee and the International Ski Federation. Before we announce our number one, show us some love by clicking the bell and subscribing to Sports Stars channel for our future videos. You can also leave a comment below on what you want to see next. Number 1. Boxing. Remember when you were a kid and you suddenly had a beef with one of your playmates for whatever reason? You ended up fist fighting resulted to bruises that you had a hard time explaining to your mom at dinner. Boxing is almost similar to this, only that you won't be boxing your playmate but rather against a stranger in a ring. Hence, boxing deserves its top spot on this list. Boxing is a fighting sport that requires two people to fight against each other in a ring. This game also has a high chances of bruises and injuries. Anyone who has put on boxing gloves to do a class, workout, or even to hit the heavy bag can attest the difficulty and stamina it takes. This standard 3-minute round seems to be forever if you're the one in the ring. Even at the amateur level, the sheer mental and physical exhaustion in a boxing ring is indescribable. It's the willingness to confront not only your opponent but also your fear. Fear, as ESPN directly pointed out, is the reason why boxing is such a difficult sport. Nothing drains you and creates exhaustion like fear. If you agree with our top 10 most difficult sports or if we missed anything, this is your chance to let us know by leaving a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, then show us some love by liking and subscribing to our channel Sports Stars. Make sure to click the bell so you won't miss our future exciting sports videos. Thanks for watching!